Neanderthals and humans mated millennia ago, and their legacy lives on in us today. Here's how. The group had travelled for thousands of miles, crossing Africa and the Middle East, until finally reaching the dimly lit forests of the new continent. They were long vanished members of our modern human tribe, and among the first Homo sapiens to enter Europe. There, these people would likely have counted their distant cousins, Neanderthals. These small bands of modern human relatives had hooded brows, large heads, and kind of squat bodies too. And they had spent epochs acclimating to Europe's colder climate. At several points across millennia, these two forms of humanity would meet, mingle, and mate. Tens of thousands of years later, these ancient encounters have left traces in the genetic code of billions of humans alive today. The lingering genes effect, it affects us in ways large and small, from our appearance to our risk of disease. In some places in our genome, we're more Neanderthal than we are actually human. These were our closest human relatives, and this is their legacy. The first encounter, 75,000 years ago, but possibly up to 250,000 years ago, the ancestors of most modern Eurasians first ventured out of Africa and into Eurasia. Here, modern humans came face to face with Neanderthals, who last shared a common ancestor with modern humans hundreds of thousands of years earlier and had been living in these continents ever since. On multiple occasions over the millennia, the groups interbred. At first, modern humans inherited whole chromosomes from Neanderthals. However, from generation to generation, via a process known as genetic recombination, these stretches of DNA were broken up and shuffled around. Neanderthal DNA was generally deleterious to modern humans, meaning it was rapidly weeded out of modern humans' DNA through evolution. This resulted in deserts of Neanderthal DNA or large regions of the modern human genome lacking it. For example, scientists think the Y chromosome in males doesn't contain any Neanderthal genes. It may be that genes on the Neanderthal Y were incompatible with other human genes, or they may have been randomly lost via a process known as genetic drift. In people who inherited Neanderthal DNA, the X chromosome also contains a lot less Neanderthal ancestry than other non-sex chromosomes carry. This is probably because any harmful or non-functional mutations on the X chromosome will be expressed in males because they lack a matching, functional copy of the gene to compensate. That likely created strong evolutionary pressure to remove such harmful Neanderthal genes from the modern human X. But some Neanderthal DNA help modern humans survive and reproduce, and so it has lingered in our genomes. Nowadays, Neanderthal DNA occupies on average 2% of the genomes of people outside Africa. However, the frequency of Neanderthal DNA that codes for beneficial traits may be as high as 80% in some regions of the genome. Our physical appearance. For many people, the legacy of Neanderthals is apparent in a highly visible feature, skin colour. A Neanderthal gene variant on chromosome 9 that influences skin colour is carried by 70% of Europeans today. Another Neanderthal gene variant, found in most East Asians, regulates keratinocytes, which protect the skin against ultraviolet radiation. via a dark pigment called melanin. Neanderthal gene variants are also associated with a greater risk of sunburn in modern humans. Around 66% of Europeans carry a Neanderthal allele, which increases the risk of childhood sunburn and poor tanning abilities. Neanderthals have spent millennia at higher latitudes with less direct sun exposure, which is essential for vitamin D production. So changes to hair and skin biology may have allowed modern humans to quickly capitalize on lower levels of sunlight while still producing enough vitamin D to be healthy. Our ancestors had to adapt to colder Eurasian weather. To do so, they may have acquired Neanderthal genes that affected face shape. In 2023 study, scientists discovered that modern humans inherited a tall nose gene from Neanderthals. A taller nose may have allowed more cold air to be heated to body temperature in the nose before reaching the lungs, and this is according to research and studies. The clock that makes our cells tick, Neanderthal DNA, also may have helped Homo sapiens adjust to the bigger differences in day and night length at northern latitudes. Lingering Neanderthal genes affect our circadian clock, which regulates internal processes such as body temperature and metabolism. Quick example, some early risers can thank Neanderthals for their circadian clock genes. This may have helped our ancestors adjust to shorter winter days farther from the equator. It's a signal of how essentially flexible your clock is and how it can adapt to the variation in light dark cycles with seasons. Our internal defenses. Many of the strongly retained Neanderthal genes are tied to the immune function. By the time Homo sapiens arrived in Europe, Neanderthals had already spent hundreds of thousands of years fighting infections specific to Eurasia. By mating with Neanderthals, modern humans got an instant infusion of those infection fighting genes. Those pieces of Neanderthal DNA, especially the immune ones, they already adapted against pathogens which Neanderthals had been living with for such a long time, and they started to rise in frequency under natural selection in modern human populations. While many of the ancestral pathogens that sicken ancient humans are lost to time, some of the Neanderthal genes that help fight them off still work against modern pathogens. For example, a 2018 study by Ennard and a colleague revealed that modern humans inherited Neanderthal DNA that helped them combat RNA viruses. And a group of them today includes the flu, HIV, and hepatitis C. The darker side of Neanderthal DNA. Some of the Neanderthal genes that once helped our ancestors may be harmful in the modern world. Neanderthal genes are not strongly expressed in the brain, which hints that they were strongly selected against during evolution. Neanderthal genes have been linked to mood disorders such as depression and to the brain signaling pathways that make people more likely to become addicts. And even the immune boost from Neanderthals may have a downside. In 2016, scientists discovered that Neanderthal genes that prime the immune system to fight pathogens may also predispose people to allergic diseases. In addition, Neanderthal genes have been tied to a higher risk of developing autoimmune diseases, such as Graves' disease. There's one, which is caused by an overactive thyroid, I believe. And rheumatoid arthritis, that's another, which inflames the joints. And even Viking's disease, in which one or more of your fingers becomes bent or frozen. One Neanderthal gene variant may have made us more likely to have a severe case of COVID-19 as well. That variant, which is found on chromosome 3, is particularly found in half of South Asians and 1/6 of Europeans. What lies ahead? Over hundreds of thousands of years, some of these Neanderthal fragments will gradually be eliminated from our genomes. Others will become firmly embedded. In the meantime, there's still much more to learn about how Neanderthals left their mark on us. New genomic technology like the CRISPR and alongside gene editing plays an important role in understanding the actual underlying biology of how Neanderthal sequences contribute to human traits and diseases. Deciphering what these genes actually do could aid the development of treatments for certain conditions. Scientists are also trying to determine how modern human DNA may have influenced the Neanderthals and are applying, believe it or not, artificial intelligence or AI methods to, you know, ancient genomes to create a more detailed picture of what our long lost cousins were like. Figuring out the role of Neanderthal DNA is, you know, in our genomes does more than help us understand our health. I mean, these bits of DNA can provide clues, and it what's it it's what makes you and myself unique. I just want to say a quick thank you for pulling up a lily pad and joining me at the pond today. And I hope you enjoyed this little historic insight. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.